Welcome to Riding the Chaos, a pagan podcast where shenanigan happens, chaos is coordinated, and mischief is encouraged, and engaged. I'm Arrow, my pronouns are they, them.
I'm Paul, my pronouns are he, him.
I'm Ophelia, my pronouns are fluctuating.
So my pronouns are they, them.
Wait, am I the last one?
Yes, you are.
I'm Owl, and I'm they, them, or she, her.
And we also do have our witch turn as well. We're going to warn you that some of the stuff we talk about today may not be suitable for young children and those who are just starting down their path. With that being said, sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the ride.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this episode we're going to be talking about cults. So
Cool.
I believe Pixel is facilitating our moderation through talking points.
I am going to put out a warning right now that there are going to be mentioned, like a trigger warning. There are going to be mentions of physical assault, including rape and kidnapping, as well as mentions of psychological manipulation, and a lot of this stuff is not going to be suitable for children under the age of 15. Listener and viewer discretion is both strongly advised for this episode, because this stuff gets super heavy.
Really quickly, so.
Just a quick disclaimer. So a little bit about at least us. We recently actually got out of a cult. So
Yes, we drank some UPG Kool-Aid, didn't we, folks?
It was Flavor Aid. It was Flavor Aid.
Well, you guys did.
Yeah. We sans Sal. But she did play a critical role in some discernment that I missed. So
That's true.
We'll leave it at that.
Not to toot my own horn.
well, thank you, Owl. For real.
Yes.
Like, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't for you, none of us would be here right now.
Don't say that. You're gonna make me cry.
But all of us are now out of that. So, talking point next for what do we have? What do we have?
Okay, so the first thing that I'm pretty sure a lot of people have done at least a little bit of research or at least heard about is called the BITE model, BITE. It's a model to find warning signs and red flags of cult-like mentality within a group of people. Fun fact, the man that created this was Dr. Stephen Assen. He's a licensed mental health professional. He has over 40 years of experience helping others undo what was done to them within those groups. And he is a cult expert. He's also a former cult member himself and was deprogrammed in 1976. He is the founding director of the Freedom of Mind Resource Center, and he graduated from Fielding University, where he earned his doctorate.
I do want to add that we did get out in time.
Yes.
Where we weren't totally programmed.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been helping each other kind of go through the stages.
Definitely process it.
But we're also not licensed professionals to go through legit deprogramming.
This is straight out personal experience on all fronts.
Yeah, we can sympathize and empathize and maybe point you in the right direction, but we are not professionals as far as mental health goes.
We none of us are licensed psychologists or psychiatrists. The stuff we're going to talk about is a lot of research that's been done based on and experiences that we've had ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
I guess the first question is really, what is a cult? What constitutes a cult?
So, the definition of a cult is, I had it and I don't have it anymore, so I'm just... Okay, so according to the, the Oxford Dictionary, not culture.
Cult.
Sorry. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion dedicated towards a particular figure or object.
So, the framework of what we went through, does everybody immediately go, huh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Who wants to break open the can of UPG Kool-Aid here? Like, who wants to pour it out for folks first? Who's going first?
It was a
Have fun, guys.
wonderful. It was a wonderful experience when these people would befriend you and love bomb you and tell you that you're amazing and you're wonderful, and they just really want to get to know you and really help you out. And then they do a shadow reading, and that shadow reading then goes into everything that's wrong about you. But they can help. They can help you. And then when you get into like a private call with them, they're like, you have a very special purpose. You're very special.
But everyone
For
is
me-
special.
For me, I was an oracle that was supposed to be a mouthpiece for the new gods that were coming in, and the old gods were transitioning out.
Okay.
That was at the beginning.
So disclaimer here. Just because they said it didn't mean we bought it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, no, they wanted all of us to believe that we were like reincarnations of deities or something like that, and it was
Oh, that came later.
it came later, but it was like
But they were setting up for that.
Yeah.
They were setting up for that, and okay, so full disclosure, I'm autistic, so sometimes I miss social things. And I think as a neurodivergent person, it's a lot easier to miss those things and
yes.
kind of like get pulled in until like something absolutely crazy happens and you're like, what?
What? Hang on. Hold up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
How
I
do I
don't
find
understand
myself?
what's
Where
going
am
on
I?
here.
This
Why
is
would
not
you
where I
pull
went
that?
to sleep.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what threw me off is like I didn't see this coming, and it is probably I didn't see this coming because I am neurodivergent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat.
But even, bear in mind, even neurotypical people get taken in by all forms of cults, like pagan,
Yeah.
other forms of
and
religious.
From my experience, like I've done a lot of research because I was going to be that. I was like, I'm not going to be taken over or taken advantage by a cult. So I did all the research that I could, and they get you from love bombing.
Yeah.
They get you from telling you're amazing and being your friend and helping you out in your practice or in your path or just in your life in general. And then they keep sneaking in little tidbits, little tiny tidbits that are like.
And they have like a snippet of
really-
truth in that tidbit, like something that makes it make sense.
It makes
It's
sense so
manipulation
that
101.
it's enticing.
I'm in the same boat as Arrow. Like, I have been researching cults for over a year now because I didn't want to get dragged into those. You know, I didn't want to be a part of another Heaven's Gate or another, like something like that, or the Branch Davidians. That's something. Like, I don't want to be a part of something like that. So I decided I was going to educate myself on that stuff. And I've been doing research for like a year, and I still got pulled in.
Well, and what's funny is Pixel and I were in another cult before this one.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 weeks before this one, like we had just exited another one.
Yeah, and
You had a rebound cult.
yeah, we had a rebound.
A rebound cult?
A rebound cult.
They're so common in the pagan community.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well,
It is
and I think
ridiculous.
what really happens is like people start looking to somebody as like an authority figure, like they have all this knowledge, and that makes them some sort of authority, and it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. And authority brings power, and power corrupts.
Yeah, and
there have been several psychological studies on how, like, if you give somebody power, it messes with them, it changes them. Like that one from that university back in like the 80s, I think, or was it the 90s? The one with the
that was the
prison
80s.
under that was the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I lived through that. I'm old.
Yeah, because that was before my time. I'm a 90s baby.
same.
I lived through that, so.
We do have a generationally diverse crew, I will say that.
A little bit.
Yeah.
We have some Gen X, we have
That'd be
some millennials, we have some Gen Z.
that would be the witch turn.
Yeah.
That was the college experiment where they took the class and they divided them into prisoners and guards, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it took less than like 48 hours and everything just went.
They had to shut it down completely because it really messed with those kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like they needed to be deprogrammed.
People highly underestimate the power of mental manipulation. Cults, on the other hand, at least ones that accomplish their goal, they know how to use it. That's what makes them scary.
Yeah.
Speaking of manipulation, that actually brings up another really good source for finding behaviors that cults use and like tactics and stuff that cults use to like get people in. The man who coined these terms was Dr. Robert J. Lifton. He is an icon with this like in this field of study.
I feel like Lipton has more categories and more in-depth stuff than a lot of people do about how people are indoctrinated.
He's another American. He's another American psychiatrist. He graduated from the New York Medical College in 1948, and he is credited with helping establish a new field of medicine called psychohistory. And what that is, it's a field of inquiry, and this is a quote. It is, quote, a field of inquiry that explores the psychological motives of individuals and groups of historical actors, as well as psychological impacts of historical events, end quote. That is from his website.
What did you say that's called? Psycho what?
Psychohistory.
Thank you.
And he's also credited with creating the 8 criteria of thought reform. And number two on that list is mystical manipulation. Where it's like, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So mystical manipulation is like where they like have like planned spontaneity. Like, for example, if somebody gets possessed by like their ancestor and claims that someone else in a group has like become possessed by an archangel, for example, and has infected everybody else in the group with these things called soul chains. Just, you know.
Wow, okay.
For example, especially when said ancestor is not their ancestor but mine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Or,
example
I'm sorry, someone else's.
Another would be when, at least from my experience in the cult that we just escaped, was spontaneous embodiment of deities, giving us
similar.
messages.
Constant. But here's also the thing, though. It doesn't always look like manipulation. It doesn't always seem like it's like possession. A lot of it's like due to like fasting, chanting, limited sleep, things that will affect you psychologically, but are also used as interrogation tactics.
Yes.
And these interrogation
literally
tactics,
have
there's also versions of them that are used in certain subcultures to exert, what's the word I'm looking for? Consensual control over another person. They work. So whether you're consenting or not to that kind of programming, it will work on you given enough time and enough concentrated effort.
And like the leaders of these cults are also seen as like the chosen human, that's seen as like the savior or a source of salvation for these people, which is how like people like the
Those?
hold on, if you look at like Heaven's Gate, their chosen human was an alien that was an alien spacecraft that disguised itself as a comet. When it got close to Earth, they were going to pick up the people and take them to heaven.
But they couldn't be in their earthly bodies.
Yeah, and like they drank like what was it that they drank?
Wasn't it
I think it was like
it was a mixture of, one second, I have this stuff written down. I swear. It was a mixture of vodka and phenobarbital. They drank like the leader the leader Marshall Applewhite, him and 38 other people drank that stuff and laid down and just died. It was because nobody knew about this until after it happened too.
And they were all dressed the same, but they had put out web videos about it, how they were going to do this. But they weren't exactly the largest cult ever, so nobody knew until they found a bunch of dead people.
Yeah.
And the thing with the cult that we just escaped was there was the head person who ended up being the head deity, but he would appoint us all as oh no, first he told some of us that we
cut out, man.
Or children, direct children of said deity. Ophelia was told that they were a direct descendant. I was told that I was a direct descendant, actually a child of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who else was told that they were.
I was a child of.
Yeah.
That's what I was told, and I was like, that is not my relationship at all with this deity.
Yeah.
See, Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, go ahead, Vixen.
See, I didn't actually experience any of that because I was ignored.
Well,
I was being punished by the group for cutting my hair. I shaved my head in the middle of it, which brings up another point that they have this particular group has a type, which is long dark hair and glasses,
which makes me want to cut my hair off even more.
And I had long dark hair, and I shaved my head, and they ignored me after that.
Yeah, and the thing is that, the head person's wife, who was also, super authoritative, I can't count the number of times they were you look just like each other. You look just like each other. You could be sisters.
Constantly.
Ooh, that's really, that's a massive red flag. That's a very scary kind of red flag.
Yeah, we look a lot alike. It's kind of weird. And they're like, oh, you're basically carbon copies of each other. I'm like...
Yeah, it was weird.
Very weird.
Then they started targeting people who just had feminine presenting people who had black hair and glasses.
Yeah.
Because
dark hair and glasses. Yeah.
Dark hair and glasses. They even convinced one of the people to dye their hair either red or purple.
Yeah.
I know that one.
And
yes,
it was very disconcerting once you looked back at it. You're like, oh wait, something weird was about to happen.
That makes my spidey sense feel bad.
Yeah, and after the fact, it totally looking at it, I was like, this is gross, and something bad is about to happen.
Yeah, it's that's not innocent. There's something behind that. God knows what. But
exactly.
That also. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
Just to touch on the hair thing for a second. So, I've mentioned this to you guys in private. I'm not going to name names here for reasons, but I've been in one myself when I was a teenager, and the thing is, one of the things that first started to get people to convince me that something was wrong was pointing out the pattern of people couldn't even dye their hair or change something about their appearance without going and talking to our pastor. That was one of the first things that made me start to go, hold on a freaking minute, and I started examining things. It was just a chain of, we are not thinking for ourselves here anymore.
I don't even control that kind of thing with my kids.
Yes, it is.
I don't even control that kind of thing with my kids. My kids are allowed to have whatever haircut, whatever hairstyle, whatever hair color they want, because I was told when I was younger that I wasn't allowed to do that until I was started breaking rules. And I was like, well, I mean, there are worse things that my kids could want to do.
True.
So
hard drugs is what I was going to say.
But yeah, the changing the physical appearance to suit the needs or to suit the wants of the group, that's actually part of the B in the BITE model, which is behavior control. That's where you regulate what deities you're worshiping, your fit what physical reality you're a part of, the types of clothing and hairstyles that you use.
It was everything. It was clothing style, it was hairstyle, it was what college you were going to, what you were majoring in. That was the thing, is people were highly, highly controlled. this was one of the reasons why once the truth got out there, people were like, oh yeah, I see that. That's clearly obvious.
Well, and in the model of that we just got out of, I was told that my deity wasn't actually my deity, despite the fact that I've worked with my deity for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
And my deity was supposedly, like, actually just a facet, a face, a mask of an ancient Sumerian deity. And I'm like...
And that's a part of thought control, too.
Yeah.
We're trying to get you to think something different than what is actually true.
Right. And, like, my personal opinion on it didn't matter. And they always questioned me, like, well, why can't you see him as Inky? And I'm like, because I don't. I just don't.
Because he's not.
Right?
They told me that Apollo, one of the deities that I work with, wasn't actually Apollo. It was Uchu, the sun god of the Sumerians, showing up in a form that I would be most comfortable seeing, or most, like, familiar with, but it wasn't actually Apollo. I was like, okay.
See, here's where I'm like, why would you try something so extreme so early?
It wasn't early.
It wasn't that early for a lot of people.
Are you sure? Because, like, that's really hard to convince somebody to change after that long of working with someone.
It wasn't that early,
I feel like they would have wrapped that the wrong way.
No, for the major portion of the group, they had been there for a long time, like months and months. For me,
okay, I get it.
And Pixel and Tree, we had only been there for what, maybe 2 months?
Yeah.
I get it.
For long. And, like, they had this weird process of, like, culling out what they considered weak. So, which is what's happening right now. Like, we spoke out against all this on TikTok, and so they, like, rebranded themselves. Yeah. And they even rebranded I looked at it yesterday, they rebranded their Patreon, too. It no longer is, the cult's name. It's now something else.
Everybody knows the cult's name, is like on TikTok.
Walking the Grove.
Yeah, Walking the Grove. Like, everybody knows it's a cult because they lost their top 3 members with a following.
Mm-hmm.
And we put it out to everybody, and there's a lot of big name TikTokers that follow the 3 of us, and so it got out there pretty quickly and pretty straightforwardly.
Yep.
Oh God, yeah. And the thing too is, like, when we started putting out our videos, more people were coming out about they approached me and they were going like this, and there was someone who was talking about they kept in contact with this one person and basically caused them like a spiritual crisis on if they were going to continue working, like continuing in their path or not, because they made them question everything about everything, and they're like, I'm just going to quit witchcraft. I'm like, what the fuck?
My inner mama bear witch just went, excuse me.
Well, and that's really how it is for especially the more experience of us as practitioners. We're like, oh no, you do not mess with the baby witches this way. You don't do that. And so, like, our main warning was for baby witches. I mean, we got ourselves out of there pretty quickly and pretty easily, but I can see, like, and have seen, because there's still some people there where they are brand new practitioners and they are just not, they can't fathom that this isn't true.
Yeah, you guys had the experience and the knowledge to catch yourselves before it was too late. It also helped that, like, I'm glad I walked into the chat on the day I did where, Paul and Arrow were discussing it, and I turned around and I'm like, you have to do something about that. You want to warn people about it, you need to do it, because if you don't, somebody's going to get hurt.
And I absolutely agree with that decision. I think it was the best decision that could have been made, is like, we have to warn somebody about that, because the second that Arrow and Paul got into it with the leaders of the cult walking the grove, then my phone started being blown up. And I was
Instantly.
like, and I was at work, and I was like, what's going on here?
And the reason being is because they knew that I was buddies with Ophelia.
Mhm.
Because Ophelia had brought me in.
I had also gotten a message from them like that day too. After y'all told me what was going on, they were like, "Hey, we're not gonna make you pick a side, but like you need to pick a side."
Yeah, and they said that
essentially
over
what it
and
said.
over again. I just need to know where you stand. I just need to know where you stand. And I was like, I got to the point where I stopped answering. Because I told them first and foremost, I was like, because I didn't have the full conversation, and me being the logical person I am, I'm like, okay, let me go talk to Arrow and Paul and see what happened. And when they showed me the screenshots, and I was like, okay, that's not how a sigil works, because I've been doing sigil magic for like over 25 years. And that's my specialty. That's my best magic. I know how sigils work, backwards and forwards, as above, so below, the whole bit. You know, that's not how sigils work. And that was absolutely okay.
And
to be clear about the conversation for anybody else that's listening, what had happened was there was a sigil that Arrow made to protect animals, basically, from somebody that was suspected of animal abuse, which is, you know, another trigger warning. But there's like, and then the leader of this group, Scott, was like, oh, you don't need to do that. And he had the person that Arrow was making the sigil for, got him to stop. So Arrow cut the sigil in half. When you cut the sigil in half, that breaks the sigil. Like, end of story, it's done. If you feel anything empathetically or astrally, it may be the release of the energy that was bound in the sigil. But it is
or it could pictures that I took that I sent to the group of the sigil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what they could have been feeling as well,
right?
Because that is also a form of sigil work. But I cut the initial sigil in half,
and then sent an image of the sigil cut in half as well, just to counter that. Which that does not double the sigil.
No.
If anybody tells you, because one of the things in sigil magic is a containment image or a containment field. So a circle, a square, a triangle, whatever shape you want to use. When that line of that containment field is cut, done. So it doesn't double it. If anybody tells you it doubles it by cutting it in half, they're wrong.
Well, and then, so what ended up happening was the female leader of the cult, her name is Casey, went after Arrow for that sigil, saying that he doubled it. That's not how sigils work. You doubled it. You doubled it. You doubled it. I can still feel it. I can still feel it. I can still feel it, with both Arrow and Paul telling her that's not how it works.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
And mind you, she's only been, they said she's been practicing for 7 years. She's only been practicing for like a year or less.
Right. And now I've been doing this for 25 plus years, sigil magic.
Paul and I've been Paul, you've been practicing for 10 years, right?
No.
More.
Less.
Oh.
Less, okay.
Yeah.
But it's still more than 5.
Yeah. Like the
knowledge and experience far outweighed.
The practice. The practical practice.
And when I said no, that's not how it works, Casey blew up. Blew up.
How long have you been practicing?
I'm not,
just for everyone else.
And I was talking to Tree.
It's been 5
for me,
years.
18 years.
Yeah, 18 years. Okay.
Okay. And
so you've been doing this for a hot minute.
Yeah, there it is.
So, Arrow, you've been practicing
So-
for 18 years. I've been practicing for, oh Lord, I'm old. Like,
No, you're not.
oh,
You're not old.
27 years. 27 years.
Yeah. So I know my sigils. It's like, I'm not as experienced as Ophelia, but like that was the first magic I got into without knowing it.
And the way that you were gone after in that that chat, because I saw all the screenshots, the way you were gone after in that chat, I would have bucked up too. Like, no, you don't. You don't talk to me that way. Like, there's a basic human respect. You're not an authority figure. You're just another person. We're both adults.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how this works. And then,
And I was in a voice call with Tree when all of that was going down, and I'm like, I'm just not replying. I'm just going to go on and do my own thing. I'm going to leave the group, whatever, because I don't need to deal with this. Someone does not tell me how my magic works when I'm the one.
And when I finally got off work, I talked to Tree and Arrow about it. I was like, okay, what happened? And I went through the entire thing, and I was like, okay, do you guys think I should talk to them and see what they have to say? And I was very honest with them. I was like, that is not how sigil magic works. You're wrong. I don't care where you're at. You're wrong. Scott tried to tell me I was wrong, and I was like, I don't think so.
And see, this brings us into another part of the 8 criteria for thought reform by Dr. Robert J. Lifton, which is doctrine over person. That's when like something like this occurs, and like if it's not done the way that the group has stated this is how it works, then it's wrong. I don't care who you are, I don't care how long you've been practicing, it's wrong. And that's and it does have a lot of like and so like you can't like have like a lot of like emotions in it, because it's not what you are doing. It's not what you are supposed to be. It is not what you are supposed to be believing in when you're in this group. Like in the case of Walking the Grove, we were supposed to believe that these two people were like the embodiments of like Sumerian deities, and they like killed the Christian God.
Yeah, they literally said they broke in a cage and killed Yahweh.
Yeah. And like, and if you didn't believe them, then you were basically you were yelled at, you were ignored, you were gone. Like they would like exile you, and no one was allowed to talk to you, basically.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we started putting the pieces together.
Because it was just bits and pieces of information here and there and here and there and here and there.
Bits and feelings, little red flags that you ignore sometimes.
And that's how they get you.
Benefit of the doubt.
That's exactly how they get you.
There's a TV show that they really promoted and said everyone needs to watch this, which was stupid, super stupid. American Gods, with the concept of gods and new gods.
Mm-hmm.
They also used the concept from the comic book Lucifer of Yahweh being trapped in a box. That is from a comic book. And they ran with that and said they broke into the box, killed Yahweh, and then took the mantles that he held. If a human as small and insignificant as Casey could break into the box, why didn't Yahweh break out of the box?
Right? I mean,
See,
even
this
in the
is
original
the logical thought that we should have had.
Yeah.
But in the moment, you've been programmed to go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody wants that kind of confrontation where like you're surrounded by people that are going to just backlash at you. So you try to quietly extricate yourself from the situation. That's like, okay, brah.
Yeah.
Bye.
And as someone who is neurodivergent or neuroatypical, you don't want to cause those rifts. Society already has a stigma about it.
Yeah.
Society already thinks we're like fucking loopy. So when we have a group of people who accept us for who we are, we don't want to cause rifts with those people. And so we just go along with it until it's programmed up here.
And another part is actually another piece of that 8 criteria called the sacred science. which is like which is like the stuff that you're supposed to believe. It's supposed to like offer like a considerable like security for young people, or in this case, baby witches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to just like greatly simplify the world. And you mean, how much easier would it be if these two people, you know, who claim to be Sumerian gods killed the Christian god, and like, you know, so you can just follow them and do whatever they say. It's super easy, super simple.
Well,
you know, follow that.
That's and I don't want to say problem with baby witches, but like American and Canadian and like most of North America and Europe are like Christian societies, right? Like by and large.
Which is in itself its own brainwashing.
Well, we don't bash on other religions, but like
we're not bashing. I'm not bashing. I'm just stating.
It's got
most like mega churches, for example. That's a good example of that's a scary level of.
I mean, it depends if it's a metropolitan area, but nonetheless.
Fair.
I don't know where I was going now. I'm completely derailed.
Sorry.
When you have a Christian dominant society,
right? Then it's easier to fall into those, like, want to have rules. They want to have that same structure, that same security as they had before, and you can't have that in the craft because it is so highly personal to each person. I mean, even in ceremonial witchcraft and high magic, you are going to have you have structure and rules, but you get to decide what you're going to do when, what your intentions are with it, and that kind of thing. And most magic is so super free form that you just kind of have to figure it out yourself, and that can be a scary place. And I get the question constantly, where do I start? Where do I start? Where do I start? And I'm like, buy a book. Which book?
Yeah.
Any book. Pick a book. Pick a book. If you don't like it, pick another book. You don't like that one? Pick a different one. But nobody's going to tell you how to do it exactly. Nobody's going to do that for you. You have to figure it out for yourself because not everything's going to work for you.
And the groups that tell you that like this is how it's done, watch out for them, because like you can have things that lead to like, you know, Heaven's Gate or the Om Shinrikyo, that cult. For those of you that don't, so Om Shinrikyo was a Japanese-based cult back in it started like in the 80s, and it was a doomsday cult. And they were if you had heard of the Japanese subway sarin gas attack, that's the people that did it. It was led by a guy named Shoko Asahara, and he claimed to be both Jesus and Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So so he claimed to be both, and he started like the way that he like gained followers was through university students. He would go to universities to speak. He wrote books. That's how he gained his following. A lot of them were young kids from like super like prestigious universities over in Japan.
Which means they probably had really strict families.
They would say it one more time?
That means they probably had really strict families, therefore this is the first taste of freedom they get.
Exactly. They were very impressionable and stuff. And there's actually, and like what they would do is former cult members have testified that they would pay to do these rituals where they would like that involved, you know, Shoko Asahara's like hair and like his bathwater. And even while he didn't do it, he encouraged them to like reject materialism. So like they would have nothing and he would have everything, which happens a lot in cults actually, where like everyone's living up basically below the poverty line, and the leader is like, you know, living living in like a $1 million home.
Mm-hmm.
And he would also exploit these poor people for money. And in 1988, one of the members actually did like tell people that, hey, this guy made I paid this guy over $8,000, which is in American money. I think it was like over 6,000 euros. For a blood initiation, where what he drank, like he basically drank what he thought was like Shoko Asahara's blood. Like that's gross.
Whoa.
Yeah, like this guy was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some deep level stuff. Deep level
Yeah.
conditioning
Well,
there.
it went deeper too, because like, again, going with the whole cult thing, if you were a de facto, you were put on a hit list.
Mm.
Important
Yeah.
people were put on a hit, and the cult members started carrying out these brutal murders. And then they did the subway thing, and like it's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
It's the extreme on the scale of it starts with excommunication, and then this is the snowball that it will eventually go down the hill to become when you allow cults to just go free. They will not stop. They will not stop until either everyone is dead or until they've hurt someone else. That is always where it ends up going. Even if they don't start in that mindset, the people that study cults, the psychology behind some of it, time and time again it is shown. It never ends well. It will never end well.
That's which is another good point of like Jonestown, for example, the People's Temple. That one led by
Jim Jones.
Jim Jones. He was a pastor in a church in Indianapolis, and he preached against racism, which is how he got his following, because it's like at the time it was like in the 1950s, you had like that build up to the civil rights movement happening, and he went from there to move to California. And then in 1978, they moved. Not 1978. I'm sorry. In the late 1970s, in like the mid to late 1970s, when their church was like accused of financial fraud, they moved. Yep. He moved his entire congregation to Guyana, in Africa, to isolate them.
Yep.
And like that's how he got people, was through like, hey, racism bad, come follow me. I don't do that shit,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so that, like, the whole moving for isolation, it's another thing that Walking the Grove tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
One night I went to sleep, everything was fine. The next morning I woke up, I get a call from Scott saying, hey, so this member is going to be moving here. This member is going to go pick up this person. They're going to be moving here. This person is going to be moving here as well. This person, hey, if we get you a work visa, would you come down from Canada to move here? And I'm like, one, I'm not giving up my free healthcare. Two, where am I going to live? I'm not going to sleep on your couch with like 4 other people. I'm not going to like... And like some of us, like Ophelia has an established place, an established family. Paul as well, established place, established family. They're not gonna move.
You guys wouldn't, but someone who's more impressionable than you would walk away from their whole family. It's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. And that's the thing, is like the one who is more impressionable, who did move there, who is sleeping on their couch right now. They preyed on the vulnerability. They played on the vulnerability of not having a good connection with family, not having anybody there tying them down, not, and it sucks. It really sucks, because the person I considered a really good friend of mine.
Right, and I feel
Yeah,
terrible because this person had just lost their support system. Not long before that, and it was very heartbreaking for them, and these people weren't there through that.
But they took advantage of it in the aftermath.
Yes, they did.
Which is a very common tactic to use.
Yeah.
You find out somebody else. Yeah, you find out, like, in that mindset, if you are someone in the position of, like, either leading a cult or recruiting for a cult, you are usually looking for some type of weakness that is easily manipulated. Well, and there's a lot of them. And people often will even think to themselves, oh, that won't happen to me. And it's like, you sure? Because even the smallest thing can start to change how you think. Well, and you won't even realize somebody's doing it to you.
Their webpage, which I designed for them for free, they offered to pay me, and I was like, it's okay. And their logo, yeah. Like, because I knew that they didn't have a bunch of money because they were trying to get all of us to raise money. So I was like,
that's also a red flag.
Yeah, that's a massive red flag.
Yeah. Hey, I need you to start making resin stuff so you can sell that and start making your soap again. I'm like, I work a full-time job. Like,
and I was approached for my painting, and also the Rune Deck that Ophelia and I had made together. So they actually asked me to.
Speaking of, I want one of those. I want to buy one of those.
Yeah,
Well-
and they'd actually asked me to host it exclusively on their website.
Yeah, you can go to
Mhm.
thegamecrafter.com and look up Iregatter's Deck of Runes, and you'll find that deck right there for sale for a very affordable price. Pixel
Spot
has one
there.
of the
Yeah,
decks.
we'll
Beautiful.
take
Like,
Just
I
like
also
throwing
have
it out
one, and it is absolutely beautiful. And like, I've got really small hands, and like, I can
Me too.
shuffle it the way that I want to shuffle. How nice and small it is. Like, it's about the same size as like this coaster. Like, it's really small, but it's very beautifully designed. Like, I love it.
Yeah,
so
I
much.
love the size that you guys designed it in. That's the was one of the biggest things where it's like, I need that because I hate using the rectangular cards.
But it's as a product, that's what they wanted. They
That's
wanted
exactly
that
right, yeah.
because we put so much work
And-
into it.
Yeah, and the thing too is like I was making charms. I was making like enchanted charms that I was gonna sell. I made enchanted blankets. I'm making dolls. I'm making all these things that I'm putting this time and energy into. And they told me that they just wanted to host the sale. Like that's just going to be a place where people can go to buy the product, to cut out me needing to make my own website or my own Etsy store. And I'm like, okay, sure. And they also said that I could do readings on their website. You know how much advertising I got from them?
None. And also let
You know
that
how
be a
many
lesson
people
for
that
anybody
heroes-
listening.
You know how much advertising they got from me?
And me.
Tons.
Every single TikTok live that I was doing, they'd get a free promo
Mhm.
because my stuff. They'd get a free promo for their Patreon because they included a tier for me. There's like many videos that I made, and I'm like, you can get these at walkingthegrove.com. You can also get a reading. You can also do this, and you can do this there. Free promotion, free web design, free logo design.
And they got it all by being manipulative.
And they didn't
Mhm.
advertise for anything.
They didn't advertise for anybody. You know,
I remember before I cut my hair, I had been approached by Casey, and she was like, "Hey, we're gonna start promoting other TikTokers on TikTok. Would you want to be a part of that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that'd be great." And she did one video of just one person's like stuff, and then she did a compilation video of like a slideshow of other creators. Like it was like super half-assed.
Yeah.
Like,
And there was like a border and everything, so you could barely see what was going on
Yeah.
in there as
Mhm.
well. And not to like this isn't. No, this is totally bashing on their character and whatnot because they didn't deliver.
No.
But you're
Yeah.
not bashing on their
True.
character when you're speaking the truth. Please remember that. There is a
That is-
difference between bashing on somebody and just explaining what happened. And if it
No, I-
bashes them by simply explaining what actually happened, that's on them.
Yeah. And
Yeah, no, and I get that. I just my own mental processing thing. I had to tell myself that I'm not telling the truth.
Yeah,
But the
we're
thing is,
we're not
like-
being bad people by speaking the truth, even if that makes
Yeah.
someone else
Exactly.
look bad. Because
And
they,
that
in
goes back
fact,
to the
deserve to
whole-
look bad.
It goes back to the whole like Christian, like a lot of people who get into the paganism or witchcraft is they grew up with a lot of Christian indoctrination.
Yeah. Christian and
And-
Catholic religious trauma.
Southern.
So
yeah, same.
Yeah.
It is.
Southern.
It is
Southern.
so rampant.
Texas is not the South, and I will die on this hill.
Texas is the
Y'all,
South.
no, y'all are South adjacent. You're like our cousin.
You're South
No,
adjacent.
If you look at the map of the United States, Texas is in the South.
That doesn't
Yeah.
make it the South. That's a whole culture. Don't be culturally appropriating, all right?
Oh, you know what? If we're gonna go with that, then Texas is a cult too. So
right? Y'all are.
I mean, Canada would agree with that. Like, we have jokes about that kind of thing up here.
I mean, like, we have our own grocery store. We have our own ice cream. We invented frozen margaritas. You're welcome.
Okay, do you want to know how to call Texas to the table?
Oh my God, practical.
In-N-Out is better
We need
than
midnight
Whataburger,
P.S. You know it.
right? See? The second you say, like, anything is better than Whataburger, boom, Texas has broke in. Texas entered the chat.
Ouch. Ouch. Oh,
Our next episode will be talking about cultural appropriation, but we're going to get back to the cult stuff in this episode.
Well, I mean,
Remember
technically
the
the
cult
cultural
cult?
appropriation was for real in this cult. Oh my goodness.
Yes, it
I mean,
was.
that is also, like, again, a universal thing with many cults. If you examine them close enough, you will find
Oh, there was no
certain,
examining it
practices.
close enough. Straight up working with
Oh,
APR.
I believe you.
Another
No.
good example of the cultural appropriation within cults is if you look at Aleister Crowley.
Yes. And I know
Like,
a ton about Crowley.
I remember we had a massive discussion about him last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have, like, a resident expert over here. yeah, you.
So
Kind
You,
of.
Ophelia.
Yeah.
one of the things that was openly being talked about and promoted was working with the Loa.
Yes.
We do not condone it unless you're part of that closed practice, by the way.
White people who had not been initiated at all being buddy with the Loa.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Which
not.
is a massive
And
no-no.
what you
Oh
have
my
to
God.
remember is the Loa are not even technically deities. They are spirits, venerated spirits, ancestral spirits that have been, they're powerful spirits. They are. But the Orisha are technically deities. The Loa are part of your ancestral chain in ATR. And I don't do ATR because, and if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see this, but I glow in black light. So I have absolutely no ancestry in that way. I like even got my DNA test done and it is like 99.9% European. I am not going to disrespect those ancestors of those people that have suffered so much by claiming any sort of affiliation with them. That is ridiculous, and that's disrespectful as absolute all hell. And I mean, it would be the same thing with the cultural appropriation of like native cultures and things like that. Like, no, absolutely not happening. Not happening.
Speaking
You
of
will not find
that, didn't Walking the Grove also like say, oh yeah, it's totally okay for you to use like white sage?
Oh, because it came over from India is what they said. And like the websites that they would use to like get their point across were like generally screenshots. You could never actually vet the source. And it was definitely some sketchy looking websites.
Yeah, so
That shit pisses me off.
all sage has supposedly come from India.
Mm-hmm.
It never existed anywhere else in the world except for India, and that's how it got to here in North America. Scott had tried to... He asked me to talk to a chief that I knew. No. Personally, no. If it was okay for white people to use white sage in ceremony.
It's not.
One, the chief that I can talk to and get the okay, he does not speak for all of Indigenous people.
No.
Yes.
He speaks for himself.
Yes.
There's also initiation processes to belong to, like, if you're not born into it, you can be adopted. At least that's what I've been told. Like, I've been adopted in by a family.
That is a thing.
And therefore, I'm being taught the appropriate ways. Will I ever teach that to someone? No. Will I ever say anything about anything? No. It's not my
that's
shit to
yours.
give away.
Yeah,
I don't even use white sage. Even though I'm allowed to, I don't use it because
it's
not a
ours.
sacred medicine to me. It's a sacred medicine to that culture.
Like,
other ways to like cleanse other than using white sage. You know, like other people like. I know that's the first thing people think about, but like, there's other things you can use. You can use incense to smoke cleanse if you're going to smoke cleanse. You can use a fan. You can bang pots and pans together if you really want to, and y'all be gone negative thoughts.
Ring a bell. You can literally use any other form of, any other type of sage, but white sage, and you're fine. Like, what?
You don't have, make your
it doesn't have to be the one thing.
Saning bundles. There are many different forms of smoke cleansing in about every culture, basically. I mean, even the Catholics use it with their incense and the thingy. You know, where they
I have things to say about what they do in church, anyways.
That's a whole other episode.
Yep.
Right?
like this is what I use if I'm going to smoke cleanse. I have patchouli incense that I use.
If you don't care about cultural appropriation, like, 1, shame on you. 2, it's going in danger. Would you want this white sage to be gone forever because of over-harvesting? Because your dumb ass kept buying it from corporations?
Like, any place I go into where I see it for sale, I'm like, you should not be selling this.
Like,
another thing that's endangered
somebody nearby recently for that.
Another thing that's endangered that white people should not be using, because it is also cultural appropriation, is Palo Santo, which is a wood.
Yep.
And it's not even being harvested correctly for commercial sale, so using it is pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, there's so many things wrong with this.
And you can use, like, if you're going to smoke cleanse with wood, there's so many other kinds of wood that you can use. You can use oak, pine, you can use cedar, ashwood, doesn't matter. You know, like, the best kind of smoke cleansing with wood that I've used is from, like, wood that I've gathered myself from around my house in the woods.
I was literally going to say that.
Like, I would take a bottle of water and, like, I'll take, like, a bottle of water and, like some orange slices, go up to a tree, be like, can I have some of your wood, please? And if I feel like it said yes, I'll cut open the orange, place it down, water the tree, take the take the wood, go back home.
Yeah, I mean,
super easy. But, so, cultural appropriation was really bad in this. Like, working with Aloha, disrespecting native cultures, and their wishes of not using certain medicines. You know, using the Sumerian deities to discount every other pantheon.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot. And it fits the bite model super accurately. There was the behavior control. You had to be at class. You had to be here. You were constantly in a Discord. Why did you miss that call? Why weren't you in there? Why weren't you doing this? Why weren't you doing this? The intelligence control. I could know only a certain amount of things. But Tree could only know a certain amount of things. Ophelia could only know a certain amount of things. Pixel was only allowed to know.
They lied about things that I had said. They lied about things that Arrow had said, that Paul had said, that other members had said.
Which is another part of the information control, lying to other members.
And manipulation overall.
The thought control of, like, that person is wrong. Like, that person, what they're talking about is wrong. Like, this is how we do it. And, like, thinking that, like, oh, you need to stop thinking so negatively about yourself. And, you know, this is what the deities are saying that you need to do. And this is what this deity is saying that you need to do. And, like, really trying to come across that, like, what your thoughts are wrong if you're not thinking what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And Casey was actually extremely pissed off when I thanked Paul for helping me with the self-love thing.
Mm-hmm.
Paul has been great help for me with my self-love because he was doing it in a way that was actually helpful, not the way that they were having us do it, which was more of a be dependent on us to give you that validation.
Mm-hmm.
Self-love is not about other people's validation. Self-love is about your validation. So that's anyways. And then there's the emotional control,
yeah,
which is the constant, it's the dynamic of love bombing and then making you publicly admit your faults and mistakes, and then love bombing and then making you publicly shame yourself.
Which actually goes into the 8 criteria for thought reform as well. If we go to the Cult Confessions, which is number 4 of the 8 criteria, that's where like you go to like you're like you admit what you've done wrong or what the group considers sins to the leaders and other people, so they can judge you and put you down, so you have a less so you think less of yourself. And like a really good example of that kind of thing is if you think about like the Catholic Church and confession, the whole like "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," and then going into like what the sins are and like telling the priest like what they are. That's a form of a cult confessions. Like I'm not saying that. You get what I mean.
Yeah.
It's I was watching a documentary on what is now considered a cult, but they called it The Group. And I forget what they called this, but like it would be like group therapy, and they'd have a chair in the middle, and the facilitator, not a licensed therapist or it's just a facilitator of the group, would sit there and berate the person constantly until they broke down and had started admitting things they didn't do, just to get them to shut up or to get them to stop pressing, admitting things that, like one of the members, their grandmother died, and they weren't there for their grandma because they were with the cult, and got the person to admit that they killed their grandma because they weren't morally there to support grandma. When they were indoctrinated and there with the cult. So they couldn't be there to help grandma, but they admitted and believed that they had killed their grandma. Another one was
which goes into the like instilling like that fear into those people, which is also part of the emotional control. And it instills the fear of like, I am a horrible person because I wasn't there for this person, and the only people that are there for me to console me is the group, and more accurately the leader of the group. And if I lose that, if I lose that leader who cares for me, then I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, I'm going to panic. Like I can't live outside of this group because this is who I am now.
Can I point something out about that?
Go for it.
That also ties into how cults have parallels to both familial abusive relationships and domestic violence relationships.
Yep.
Yep.
Massive parallels.
And that's why abuse is so rampant in these kinds of things, is because you set the structure around people where they feel like they can't work outside of that structure, so they're willing to endure things that they would not be otherwise willing to endure because they are afraid of losing that social structure, that place in the world, that security.
One of the things that Walking the Grove has done to a lot of the members was they wanted us to write reviews for their webpage so that people could see that we were credible or that we knew what we were doing.
I remember that.
When in reality, we didn't do many readings.
No.
We didn't have many people actually doing readings, but they were getting the members. And if someone didn't write a review...
Like, I didn't write a review. I caught absolute hell for it.
We were publicly shamed on TikTok lives.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, you didn't write a review, so you obviously don't care enough. This is why you're stuck. This is why you're this. You didn't write a review, because if you did,
form of gaslighting.
If it was important to you, you would be doing it. So that obviously tells me that you're not doing the other work that we ask you to do because you can't do this simple little thing.
Like I remember that. So I work at night. Like my day begins in like an hour, maybe 2 hours from now. Like that's when my work day begins. Which is also when they would hold their classes, because most people have a flip-flop schedule. And I would get so much flack from Casey for not showing up to these classes, and I would tell her, like, I can't really be there. I'm at work. And she'd be like, you need to be there anyway. You know, we have these classes for you to use. You're not utilizing these classes. You wanted knowledge. Now you don't have that. You're not going to have that knowledge if you don't go to these classes.
What are you supposed to do? Quit work?
So what I started doing, because I didn't think about it at the time, but what I started doing was I started to have the live up on my phone while I was working, because I have that luxury at the moment. And she would get so upset at me for not interacting, and I would tell her, like, I'm pretty sure y'all have seen it in lives, hey, I can't really interact, I'm at work.
Yeah.
I can have you on in the background, but I can't, like, I'm not going to stop my job, my very important job that helps other people, just because you want me to pay attention to you because you have daddy issues. I'm sorry. Like,
No.
Right there. Oh, shit.
So
tell us how you really feel.
Snatch.
So with my
You snatched a drag.
With that, I think we hit our hour mark, guys. Dang.
Wow. Yeah, we did.
I'm gonna say, like, I've done a lot of shadow work, and a lot of the things that Casey was talking about in her shadow work classes.
Air quotes.
They weren't
Strong air quotes.
One, don't go because they're fucking full of garbage.
And they're gaslighting.
Two, they gaslight you, yeah. And two, like, I've already done the work that she's hinting at, and so I would go to support in views because TikTok really likes views, and how long the person stays there to keep them engaged. So I would put them on my phone and I would just do whatever I was doing, painting, cooking, whatever. And she would literally call me out. I still haven't heard from Arrow. And so I typed in the chat, it's like, I've already done this. I don't need to redig this up just to validate your experience. And she went off. Well, this isn't for me. This is for you. I'm like, I've already done the work. Like, I've done this 3 years ago, what you're getting them to do. I'm not redigging that stuff up when I've already dealt with it.
No, and why would you? Because that's gross.
I don't need to. It doesn't hold me back anymore. If it held me back, maybe I would. But
the reason why she started those shadow work classes is because, you know, it's getting people to talk about their trauma and getting them to talk about the things that they find wrong with themselves. So, which is just another way to, like, get them to
reveal parts of themselves so that you could open up.
And she wouldn't be doing this in the Discord chat. She would be doing this on TikTok Live, so anybody could come in and see.
But there were, not to say that there weren't side chats, because there were side chats upon side chats upon side chats.
I was in 4.
Which is also common in cults. I mean, look what we had to deal with, like.
Yeah, I was in, like, 15 groups in that server where, like, everybody was having a side chat. And I'm like, I lost my best friend to that cult. Like, my best friend of 10 years is still heavily involved in that. Not Scott and Casey's, but the prior one.
Different one.
And she's still involved in it. And she's still, like, up to her eyeballs in it. And they're, like, a lot of people think that this particular creator is for real. When we watched her literally fake things. Lie, and get called out on lying, and then literally just, like, pretend like it never happened.
So the group that Ophelia's talking about, I was actually roommates with the leader of that one for, like, a year. Like, so when they were lying, I knew they were lying, and I would try to call them out, and they would gaslight me into, like, no, that's not what's going on.
Like when their apartment supposedly caught on fire, but it didn't actually catch on fire, and it was not structurally unsound, and they got a bunch of people in their Discord server to send them money, which is called fraud.
Yep.
That's fraud.
That's definitely
and then
fraud.
it has a legal ramification.
Yeah, that's fraud, all right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
If you need to, I do want to say, if you do need to talk to someone, if you think you're in a cult, or if you're worried about a friend who's in a cult, we can leave some numbers or websites that you can go to in the description for that help. And if you need just moral support, you can find us on TikTok as well, and we'll leave our screen names or @ for TikTok in the description as well, because I do think we are out of time.
Yeah, because
Am I
we'll
correct?
be, we'll
I do
be
believe
posting
we are out of
this
time.
as a podcast on Podbean. You can find it under Riding the Chaos, and that'll
Yeah.
go pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. And then we also have a YouTube channel where this video will also be shared, which is also Riding the Chaos. And we are working on getting blog posts up so you can hear more individually about us and our practices. And we'll be covering a few different topics in the upcoming weeks, including pop culture, paganism, chaos magic, and a few others. So
Yeah. It's going to be great.
outro
It's going to be
time.
wonderful.
Do the outro.
Out of time.
Do the outro. Do the outro.
Do the outro, outro, outro.
Mean.
Well, it would help if he wasn't frozen.
Out. Sorry. There we go. Google Drive.
Do the outro.
Okay.
We lost the witch turn, apparently.
Trying.
Oh, what?
Hi, witch turn.
Go.
Oh, there we go. Couldn't hear you at first.
Okay, I'm going to do the outro if you don't do the outro.
Which turn?
What?
Do the outro.
Oh, I'm doing the outro.
Yes,
Oh,
which turn?
okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay, hold on. Let me remember it. And by remember
No,
it, I
it's
mean
in
go
the
look
Google
at it.
Drive.
There we go. There we go.
Because we're
I didn't think you
organized.
were
We're
trying to
adults. We organize things. I'm an adulty adult. Adultier than other adults.
Oh, before I do the outro, I just realized I was on mute for half of that, and I tried this multiple times. Oh no!
You were
Oh,
definitely on mute. We didn't
Orville,
hear you.
witch turn. I'm
Witch turn,
so
we're sorry.
sorry. You should have said something in the chat.
I mean, at one point I just looked at that. Oh hey, hello. Anywho.
We need a code word for like testing, is this thing on? And if no one responds to you, then you know you're muted.
My safe word is pineapple.
Anywho, thanks for listening. Join us next time for more shenanigans, mischief, and all sorts of chaos. Remember that your path is your own and do your research.
Okay then. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Damn it! I did the gay thing again.